Anybody want to take a stab at that?
Well, I just want to say I agree with her on that, because the Vietnam War was instrumental in the movement back then as well, because we did protest the Vietnam War, and many people came out of all colors to protest the Vietnam War, because we all found it was an unjust war, and it was costing lots of money, and we were having these huge drafts, and our young men were going away and being pulled from college to go fight this war that was not a win war. And so I believe, I remember marching in those marches. And I know that from the Crusade for Justice, we had several who refused to go, who sat in jail because they refused to go. They stood up, yeah.
And would you say that, say for example, the Vietnam War was kind of a game changer when Dr. King began to focus his attention also on the war itself, and
Yes.
became a greater target?
Yes, I would believe it was. Definitely.
Right here. Yeah.
I'm glad you got back to the war situation. I'm glad you got back to
Could
the
you
war
stand,
situation.
please?
Because I'm going to prefer to sit down. Because the woman back there, she was talking about how we're constantly surrounded by the need to clap for people that entered the war. We finally had an opportunity to have people not go to war. I keep thinking of something I heard when I was a little girl. It was either a movie or it was a quote from someone. What if they gave a war and nobody came?
Right.
And would our government have forced the draft? I always wonder. But I do think that the majority, and maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me the majority of the people that signed up, aside from being the 18-year-olds that were deluded into thinking Saddam Hussein, who was the antithesis of bin Laden, was going to send his chemical weapons over here. They just, were deluded into thinking they were going to be heroes and protect us. But the majority of the people, I think, went because of financial stability, an opportunity to get an education, and once again, poverty created a violence, and then it all came back to haunt us again, because it came back in the form of tons of wounded soldiers that now not only cannot get taken care of, we don't have, they're just going to take more and more money that we don't have, and then the fact that it helped to create this massive economic failure of our country.
Wow.
So what if I hope the next time they want to give a war, nobody comes.
Yeah.
And just quickly, your name.
please.
What's your name and where'd you grow up?
Oh, my name is Patricia Mohawi. My father's from Missoula Rock. He came to Denver University when he was 20. He never went back. And my mother's from Savannah, Georgia.
Wow. Thank
Or
you.
Macon, Georgia.
Great comment. What if they gave a war and nobody came? I'm going to keep that. Yes.
I'm Joe Martin. I'm a public educator.
Please stand, please.
I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area during Mario Salvo and the freedom of speech movement, starting in Berkeley, and then every other movement we've had ever since. So I'm a proud member of that generation. Please help me remember my history about Cassius Clay Muhammad Ali, who refused to participate in the Vietnamese
Yes.
War on a number of different bases. One being, why would I fight for the freedom of people in another country to have equality and opportunity and so on and so forth when that is not granted to me in my own country?
Yes.
And I don't know that I'm correct. I mean, I want to believe that I am, but
You are.
I need
You are.
clarification.
You are.
That's how we remember it.
Well, just Joe, to piggyback on what you said, Muhammad Ali was vilified and stripped and et cetera for standing up for as a conscientious objector. How many of us are willing to stand up, against what is popular but unjust? Anybody want to talk about standing up in the face of movements or causes? For example, I want to send this over to Nikki. How has the debate on immigration changed, and are things getting better with the passing of the asset bill? This is an example of something that, years down the line might prove to be the right side of history even more than we think now. Your thoughts?
Right. Well, I guess from a historical point of view, I don't see the the debate changing at all. If you look historically, the same old tired arguments are being made to scapegoat immigrants, to blame them for our country's problems, to argue for stricter laws. Last summer we did experience deferred action. Okay, the Obama administration passed deferred action, which essentially, sounds great, right? It's a pro-immigrant piece of policy, but in practice, it's really nothing more than a work permit, a 2-year work permit. And I have students at Regis and graduates at Regis who are undocumented and they don't have the $2,000 to hire a lawyer to apply for deferred action. And even if they did, they have kind of second thoughts about that, because what after 2 years, then what? And so I see small, tiny baby steps. I see a little bit of change in the way people are seeing the issue, but I hesitate to relish in those small baby steps, because what we need is comprehensive immigration reform, and we don't have that yet.
Brother Jeff,
Yes.
we have about 9 minutes,
Okay.
4 minutes for discussion, 5 minutes to wrap up.
All right. So, hearing our time constraint, is anybody sitting on something they want to have introduced into right here in the green?
Yeah, it seems, my name's Dick, I'm a filmmaker. It seems to me that perhaps our government has gotten more intelligent, that in the 60s and the 70s, when we protested, the government was totally irresponsible from both parties, both Democratic and Republican. But now they buy off our young people with incentives to go to war that are about the price of a pickup truck. And our immigration policy is determined by intimidation of people who are illegal, who are in the country. How do we use civil disobedience for our current situation?
Anybody want to take a crack at that?
Anytime, anywhere.
Vicky says anytime, anywhere. Anybody else
There
want
are
to?
plenty, there's an abundance of issues. Abundance of issues.
Yes, right here.
My name's Gabe Carlson. I'm also a
Just a second, Gay.
school educator. And I guess piggybacking on your question, I'm wondering, at this point in time, it seems that everybody, a majority of people are concerned about their own personal rights. How are my rights being violated, and what are you doing to take away my rights? So my question has to do with the movement that you're discussing in the 60s was about other people's rights and seeking justice for other people. And what can we do to help open the eyes of our citizenry to help them see that it's more than just me?
I'd like to speak for myself. I thought I was going south to save somebody else. But I realized I had a lot of time in jail to think about why I was there and what was going on. 4 of the first 5 months I was in Georgia, I was in jail. So I had a lot of time to think. And what I came up with was, this is my fight. It's not just in a philosophical sense, but a very practical sense. If they could lock up these people, if they could deny these people freedom, next they'll come for me, and that's very real. And another cost of all this discrimination that we've been talking about is that it's a distraction from the real problems. We have much more in common than we have different. I say embrace diversity, but then again, we all have common human needs and desires that are expressed in individual ways, but we all ought to be acting together rather than being distracted by, we're dumping on the Muslims today, we're dumping on the Buddhists, we're dumping on the queer community, we got a lot of people to dump on. The media feeds us all of this and keeps us from talking about. During the campaign, Greg Palast, an investigative reporter, showed that Romney profited from the bailout in Detroit. I didn't see one single second spent on that revelation, which should have been a bombshell, in any of the media, even the more liberal media. So we're all talking about all this crap over here while they're killing us.